Hello everyone. During this lesson, we will learn how to work with loops and loop operators in the Python language. Let's start by defining what loops are. Loops are special constructs that allow you to execute a block of code multiple times consecutively. Moreover, you can specify the number of repetitions yourself. In Python, there are two formats of loops, the for loop and the while loop. We will learn about these loops together. Let's start by introducing a loop called for. To write it, we need to use the keyword for followed by creating a variable. We can name this variable anything we want, but let's assume I'll name it I. This variable will be used inside the loop. Next, we simply specify the range. To specify the range, we can use a method called range. Let's say our range will be up to 6 numbers. Then, inside the loop, I want to do something. Initially, let's just print our variable I. If we run all of this at the moment, we will see that each time, the value of the variable is displayed. You may notice that the value of the variable starts from 0 and goes up to 5. In other words, this number is not included in the range, and the counting goes from 0 up to this number, exclusive. In addition to simply specifying that our loop will go from 0 to a certain number, exclusive, we can also specify that our loop will start, for example, from the number 1 up to 6, exclusive. In this case, we notice that 0 is no longer included, and accordingly, our loop outputs 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. In the range function, you can also pass a third parameter. This parameter indicates by how much you want to increase our variable. By default, this variable increases by 1. But if we specify the number 2 as the third parameter, initially, we will have 1, then 3, and then 5. Thus, to create a loop, we can use the range function along with the for loop. Here, we can specify the initial value, the end value, and optionally, the step value. If it suits our task for the value to start from 0, then we can use only one parameter. Through the for loop, we can also iterate over specific strings. The thing is, any string is essentially a list composed of multiple characters. Therefore, we can iterate over each character. To begin, let me create a new string with the word hello. Below that, we create a loop. We create the loop in the same way as we did recently, but instead of using the range function, here I specify our variable. If I print the variable I inside the loop, we will get the following result. Each character from this string is displayed on the screen. In addition to the for loop, Python also has the while loop. The essence of this loop is that it also allows you to execute code repeatedly, and we can determine the number of executions ourselves. The difference between these loops lies only in the syntax. In the for loop, we simply use the keyword in and specify what we are iterating over. However, in the while loop, we can specify a certain condition. Let's create a simple example of such a loop. For example, I'll create a variable with a value of 5. Then we write the loop itself using the keyword while. Here, we only need to specify one specific condition. We are essentially saying that our loop will continue as long as our variable is less than 15. Within the loop, we'll simply print the variable to the screen. Additionally, I want to mention that we'll be adding 2 to this variable each time. When I run this, here's what happens. Initially, the value of our variable was 5, which we printed. Then we increased our variable by 2 and returned to the loop. Next, following the same pattern, 2 was added to the variable again. The number 15 was not printed because it does not meet the condition. In the end, while loops are convenient because you can simply specify a condition, and as long as it remains true, the loop will continue to execute. Let's also explore a few operators to work with loops. We'll learn about them in the context of a for loop, but we can also use them in a while loop later on. I've set up a simple loop that goes from 1 to 11, exclusive, and prints the value of our variable each time. If we run this, we get the expected result. Numbers from 1 to 10 are printed. Now let's consider the operation of the break operator. With this operator, we can exit the loop. Suppose our task is to exit the loop when our variable becomes equal to 5. Inside the loop, I'll add a small condition. In this condition, I state that if our variable equals 5, then we'll use the break operator. This operator simply exits the loop. If we run this, we'll see that we printed 1, 2, 3, and 4, but nothing beyond that, because we checked a specific condition, and it turned out that our variable reached 5 in the loop, causing it to terminate. In addition to the break operator, there's another one called continue. Unlike break, it doesn't exit the loop, rather, it simply skips one particular iteration. Let's write it here. Suppose I want to check the following: if our number has a remainder of 0 when divided by 2, then I'll use the continue operator. If I run this now, only odd numbers will be displayed on the screen. This happens because when we encounter an even number, we skip that iteration. In summary, the break operator would exit the loop entirely, while the continue operator simply skips that iteration. Well, our lesson has come to an end. During this lesson, we've learned how to work with loops. We've studied loops such as for and while. Additionally, we've explored operators that can be used in these loops, namely the break and continue operators. That's all from me. And if you enjoyed this lesson, don't forget to subscribe to the channel so you don't miss out on new lessons. Thank you all for watching. Until next time, goodbye.